I started this podcast because for decades, I know that, because for decades I was not living my truth. And so I wish I would have taken some advice in the past, and I wish I would have listened to my gut a long time ago, and I didn't. So here we are. But today I'm loving what I do. I love where I live, and I'm happy. So I want to bring people on who are living their passions, who are lighting up the world, and enjoy what they do. And I want them to share some of their knowledge with us. So I'm going to pick their brains. Our first guest tonight is Dr. Stephen Ravnstag, and he is a chiropractor. He's founder of Ever Better Life Technologies. He's one of my closest friends. We met in chiropractic school what seems like a lifetime ago, but we bonded over Led Zeppelin and Arnold Schwarzenegger, and experienced some many interesting times in chiropractic school, and survived together, thankfully, both doing completely separate things. So I thought it was appropriate to bring Steve on and to share with us a little bit tonight and pick his brain. So without further ado, let's bring Steve on. Rules of the game before we get to that: live stream podcast. So ask any questions you like, as weird as they might be. We'll get to answer them either if they're appropriate when they come in, or at the end, if that makes the most sense. All live streams will be uploaded to YouTube, and then I will attempt to extract the audio and then put it into podcast format, put it in the app or the iTunes, or wherever that goes. I haven't quite researched that yet. This is kind of a new thing. I don't see too many people who are doing podcasts live on Instagram, so we're going to start that out and see how it goes. It's a bit of an experiment. So, Steve, I'm happy that you're embarking on this journey with me. So let's bring you in. And let's get started.
Okay.
All right, cool. Steve.
Yeah.
Steven.
Tyler.
Dr. Stephen Ravnstag.
It's me.
Welcome. I'm honored and so thankful that you joined me on this first experimental podcast on Instagram Live. No better way to introduce the world to this project than to have you on it. So thank you.
I'm an honored guest. I'm also glad you're the host, because it's so much easier to be a guest than it is to host this kind of thing.
Yeah, it is. So cool, man. Let's get into it. I first want to ask you, we haven't really caught up on California yet, but so Steve is a recent resident of California. I've been asking him to make the move out here since we did it about 2.5, 3 years ago, maybe. I don't know. And so I'm excited that he's here now. He's not in Santa Barbara. He is in Big Bear, which is cool. But I'm trying to get him up north as well. So tell me a little bit about that. I want to hear about your road trip. I caught up on social media a little bit, but I want to hear what you got going on.
I mean, it was fantastic. I knew you were right, but I have this thing, like when you suggest something to me, I have to wait 4 or 5 years before I do it. So if you suggest a band or a TV show or something like that, I have to wait a long time. But that was fantastic. I mean, the trip was perfect. California is everything that everyone says. Cool. All the good things that people say that it is. Haven't encountered a single thing that I don't like. It's great. Been in the sunshine.
Yeah.
Been to the beach. Yeah. It's fantastic.
That's awesome. You've been to Laguna a handful of times. Yeah. You've been to Laguna. So tell me about Laguna a little bit. What'd you think?
I mean, it's perfect. I mean, it's a place you go, and it's epic. People are really friendly. The weather is perfect.
Yeah.
It's I would call it casually epic. It's like there's just these beautiful houses up on these hills, fantastic restaurants. People seem to be enjoying themselves.
Right. Great. Yeah, but the taxes are high, Steve, so stay away.
Right. Make more money.
I listen to that for right. Yeah, that's the solution, right? That's the solution. So cool, man. Well, I think the coolest thing with having you on here is we're both chiropractors by trade. But neither one of us do anything with chiropractic. I'm completely different. I'm in finance and real estate, and you are completely different, really. I mean, and you're more in like the kind of the self-help realm. I'm sorry to put you in that box because I know a lot of people probably do, but you're like, you're in that self-help. And like the thing is though, is like when we were in school, like I saw that stewing, like it was brewing while we were still in class. And the thing that I remember, I was like, I don't know if Steve is like Steve, like how are we at the time? I couldn't foresee myself just like giving up on the profession altogether. And so it made no sense to me. But I was like, Steve, I think he's kind of serious about this. And then I remember standing in part 2-3 boards outside, and I'm like, where's Steve, man? This is like the biggest test of our lives. I'm 5 minutes away from walking in, and I call you, and I think I think I woke you up, and you're like, yeah, man, I'm just not coming. And I was
Yeah.
I was like, this is serious about it. He's really not yeah, right. Takes a lot of integrity. So tell me about that decision. I mean, you made that pretty quickly.
Yeah. In my defense, 2 and 3 in PT,
right.
I did those. It wasn't until 4.
Oh, okay.
4 was the one that I was like,
okay.
This is stupid. Because I was in the midst of I think I'd already started like a project that I wanted to do instead. I had read Tim Ferriss' 4-Hour Work Week. I had like decided, and I remember I had kind of like this epiphany moment, and it's weird because I don't remember exactly where I was, but I remember the realization that was sort of like, holy shit, I actually don't have to do this, And it wasn't so much. I mean, you can probably relate to this. It wasn't so much that I hated the idea of doing chiropractic; it's that by degrees I had realized that to decide to do that thing was also deciding at the same time not to do an infinite number of other things, many of which I had become really interested in the last year of school. And so there was this period of like inner pressure or of kind of like an uncertainty. I didn't know if I wanted to really fully acknowledge to myself that I actually did I just realized that I don't want to do what I invested years and hundreds of thousands of dollars in learning how to do. And so it was kind of like an easing up to that. And then there was this magnificent moment where it just sort of like, it was just like this freedom moment where I was like, oh, I don't have to do this. And it was
it at Cardwell's office?
I think it was. I think it probably was.
Doing CPT?
Yeah, a little CPT, a little genie. Well, it's funny too that you mentioned the self because this is, I don't know if anyone who's been through chiropractic can understand this, chiropractic school specifically, It's like one of those things, like, it's an interesting decision to decide, do I actually want to do, because I love chiropractic. I think it's great. I mean, like, it's done tremendous things for me in my life, and I think it benefits people immensely. But it was like, it was my time. Do I want to be the chiropractor? Like, is that what the role that I want to, is that the role I want to play in other people's lives? Is that how I want to be thought of by other? Is it not even thought of, but is that like the role I want to literally have to step into and maintain 8, 10, 12 hours a day for the
rest of your life? Right.
Yeah. And the answer to that for me was no. And it had nothing to do with not liking chiropractic, not liking patients, not liking any of that stuff. It was just, this isn't something I want to, I want to be talking about for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? And acknowledging that trajectory for accepting, being candid with myself. When I become aware of something, I pay attention fast. I don't wait 5, 10, 15, 25 years now to acknowledge stuff. And
I do. I do.
That's one of the things that in the introduction you said, I wish I had listened to my gut, and I was like, but you didn't, and so you're still friends with me, and now you have to have me on your podcast.
Yeah, exactly. So here we are.
Yeah.
All comes full circle. That's funny. Well, cool, man. So around this time, and I told you I'd ask you about this too. So around this time, you were kind of going through this shift, and I saw the gears kind of going in your mind. I knew where it was headed, and you are a pretty decisive person. You know what you want, and once you know, it's like, that's it. You're not changing your mind. You're pretty bullheaded on it, which is great. And about this time, though, it was so I first knew you as Steve Sisk.
Right.
And then you changed your name to Steven Ravnstag, which is a strong German name, strong name. I love it. But what was the shift in that? I mean, because I asked that because I come from, I think when we discover our purpose or what we really want out of life, we start shedding like the garbage from our past, or at least like, I don't mean to make this like society told us, but it kind of is like what our parents or whoever, the names that we were given, right? Without an option, without a choice in the matter. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think when you're going to make like a paradigm shift and you're really going on a different trajectory, sometimes it's important to slough off, the stuff from the past, the old armor or whatever, and put on something new and rebrand yourself as this kind of resurrected person. So
Right.
like so was that kind of like the idea, the thought process behind it, or like what's the move?
So you have to. I think you have to kind of know me to fully appreciate the nature of it, and which you do. And one of the things, no,
Right.
all candidness, I do weird stuff, right? Like you said, like I get
Yeah, you
an
do.
idea or something, and it's like, why not do that thing, And that served me a lot.
Right.
But it also leads to me doing some interesting stuff that seemed kind of strange. The name thing, like literally for as long as I can remember, I had assumed I was going to change my name, and it wasn't that I hated the name that I had. For some reason, I guess I found out it was something people did at like 4 or 5, and I was like, oh, that's great. And I started thinking about all the different options. Now, one thing that's really interesting about this is that I spent my whole, so you know me as Steve, but actually my first name was really Gerald. And so like my birth name was Gerald Stephen, PH, Sisk, Jr., right?
Right.
And,
right.
There's a lot of stuff like named after my granddad who's estranged from the family. So there's just no connection there. My whole life I was
I get that.
I was known as Steve, but anytime there was like a roll call or some kind of a formal thing, I was outed as my first name being Gerald. And so my whole life it was just like, oh, ha, his name's actually Gerald. And I never really understood that. And so, you put together like all these different, a lot of times I think people assume that it was like something big that happened. Do you know what I mean? Like I was moving to Hollywood or I had a big fight with my dad or something like that. But really, it was just, why not? I'm already going by a name that's actually my middle name anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
By the way, Sisk, which is one syllable and it's phonetic, is apparently extremely difficult for a lot of people to pronounce. And so I would spend my whole time repeating this to people that I wouldn't leave that wild about. And they would want to say fifth. And they would say, okay, if you want to have a hard time pronouncing a name, I'm going to give you something that's hard to pronounce, right? And the interesting thing about the we came up with is actually a product of Melissa and I. Like we literally brainstormed this thing, driving in Oregon, beautiful countryside, looking all around, coming up with like, okay, well, who are we going to call this guy? Who I am. And Melissa actually helped me. So to my knowledge, no one.
Ravnstag.
Yeah, exactly. This is a completely made up name, which I absolutely love because all names are completely made up. But it's kind of cool to be the first.
They're completely arbitrary.
And there's something cool about the self concept. I don't know. There's something just really fun about it. And that was, for me, it was a very lighthearted thing, not taking myself too seriously.
Yeah.
Hey, let's do this and see what happens. I'm sure we'll get some strange reactions. I'm sure some people will feel funny about it and all this, but I really appreciated the practice of doing something that I wanted to do, maybe without knowing exactly why, but doing it and not really heeding that voice that was like, oh, what if you have to explain that to people? What if people think that you're running from from your past or something? I was like, none of that stuff's true. I do it. So let me just do it. Let me see what happens when I do my life on that basis. And that's pretty much what post chiropractic school life has been for me. Let's see what happens.
Cool. That's awesome. The so question we got was from Casey, the one and only, my wife. She said, "Was your family okay with the last name change?"
Yeah. Was my family okay with it? I never asked them.
Yeah.
We had a conversation. Yeah. I don't know.
Right.
It's a good question, though. Was he? Sorry, go ahead.
So, what's interesting, and kind of the reason I asked and why I'm intrigued by it, I think I said this to you in like chiropractic school, and at the time I had no other reason other than like I was tired. Maybe it was like roll call or school or something. I was tired of like saying I'm Dr. Tyler Kallenbach. Not that I love my grandfather. He's like the name. He's one of the most influential people in my life, and so it had nothing to do with that other than the fact like as a kid I'd like call in pizza and I'd be like, hey I'd like a large pizza. Like, okay, cool, what do we put on the order? Tyler Kallenbach. How do you spell that? K-A or what was it? A-E? Was it B-C? Like it's just like it's exhaustive. You get to the end and you're just like sweating because you're still like you're starving. The pizza's not there yet, and it could have just been like a short change. And so for me though, I think it probably would have been quite devastating to my family, even though it wasn't for those purposes.
Right.
It was more of like a less complicated thing, and it just shortened something, you know. So it's interesting, you know, because I think people do have opinions, and you know, they obviously take affront to it. You know, they think that like something's wrong, or like you're like, why would you do this to me? You know, when they're all just arbitrary to begin with, you know. So it's interesting. That was pretty cool, though. I what?
They're used to me doing strange things they don't understand. It's, you know.
Steve's being Steve. So tell me about your projects that you're working on now. Tell me about Ever Better Life. You know, is Ever Better Life technology. It seems like it's evolved through the years, and I was kind of there to witness, you know, and not proofread, but like you know, go through and look at some of your PDFs and projects and things that you've done. And it goes without saying. I mean, I guess I should throw this in there with people who are listening. I don't think I said this in your introduction, but I would probably credit you, deservedly so, with probably influencing me more than any of my friends or most people, you know, that you like we spend day to day with, that I'm aware of, from you know, exercise, introducing the kettlebell, pulsatile lean, to that's pretty much it. I'm just kidding. To Alan Watts, to Bill Harris, to to all that kind of stuff, and we got pretty like heavy into that stuff. I think just to survive chiropractic school, like to get our minds right, so we wouldn't like die, you know, or like or shrivel up and do something, you know. But I was worried about the shriveling, yeah, yeah, you were with the Anyways, so but I remember, you know, when you were kind of making, you know, going through your curriculum and stuff, like I was cognizant of the influences that were there, that was kind of like pushing that, but I'm sure there was a whole lot more that was driven behind it. So tell me a little bit like where you're at now, the evolution, and the major influence, I think, with Ever Better Life, and kind of what's been going on with it.
Yeah, in the beginning for me, it was, what am I really passionate about? I discovered that like something drew me to chiropractic, something drew me to chiropractic school. There's something there, you know, in working with people and helping them with their nutrition, their health. Like there was something that attracted me to that in the beginning, and really going through school, I found a lot of things that thing wasn't. Okay, well, it's not this, and it's not that, and it's not necessarily the clinical stuff. And, you know, it's not. And what it was this idea of perpetual improvement, or of getting better all the time. I found that, which is a big
thing in your life too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that was, I mean,
you're always one to like be better and figure out like what the next step is and how you can get an advantage in it.
And if I care about something, there's nothing better to me than getting better in that area, and feeling not to make up for kind of unworthiness or to make someone else happy or anything like that, but like the satisfaction of getting better at things I actually really truly care about. Strength training, flexibility, you know, it is different for different people. But there is that common zest for life, I think, that, and I found that if you can get a person to tap into that and to really let go of everything that's not that, give them permission to know what they want, and to have like a really streamlined, and that's what the Ever Better Life course for me is about. It's about a systematic framework for organizing your experience, and so you can see what aspects that are coming from past influences, you know, beliefs, values, whatever. You can see how you're creating what you want, what you don't want. You can see like behaviors that maybe you're ashamed of, or you feel bad about, or you just could do without, or things that maybe you would like to have that aren't there. You can actually see where those things are coming from and see how they make sense given the ecology of what's going on for you. And it's really about expanding awareness. You know, it was like, I mean, I came into contact with Bill Harris and his holistic meditation stuff, and his whole thing was awareness. And that just absolutely I became obsessed with that notion of awareness being transformative, because I saw in my own life that to the degree that I was aware of what was going on, which is seeing myself doing something as I'm doing it, and seeing the consequences of doing whatever it was as they were happening, that like things started working out for me, that I didn't have to force myself to do shit I didn't want to do in order to get outcomes that I wanted. That like there was this kind of flow state that I could plug into, and really, and I liked people better. People liked me better. I did more things that people wanted. You know what I'm saying? I was more useful to people. Everything just kind of flowed when I was in that kind of conscious state. And so there was this kind of like merit of the perpetual improvement and that basic foundation of awareness and understanding kind of where what it is like to be you comes from. And pretty much it's just been streamlining that and delivering that to people, making it more accessible to people. That's what the last 4 or 5 years has been about.